Welcome to Paranormal Palace Radio, where truth equals reality, and truth is often stranger than fiction.
Hello everybody, welcome to Paranormal Palace Radio. This is your host, Royce the Redneck Radio Man, and joining me tonight is going to be Robert Macklin. He's returning to my show from March when we talked about a prior book of his, The Jesus Delusion. And while we were at it, we briefly touched bases on Sniper Elite, the world of a top Special Forces marksman, which we didn't get a chance to tell you much about the last time. We'd run out of time for one thing. But he's back with me again tonight, and we're going to try to tell you a little bit more about that. And he's also informed me tonight that there's been some new things happening in Afghanistan, and he's going to kind of bring us up to speed on that as well. So, listen, he's on a kind of a short time clock tonight, so I don't want to talk away the whole night on him. I'm going to put him on, and I'm going to let him give us a start in this. Robert, how you doing tonight?
Hello, Royce. I'm doing fine, thanks, my friend. Very nice to be with you.
It's wonderful to have you back. I really enjoyed your show on the show the last time, and I'm glad to have you back to kind of relive and everything for us, and we can talk about this book a little bit. But if you don't mind, real quick, like you got my curiosity up. What's the new things going on in Afghanistan?
Well, there's just been an announcement here in Australia that our troops are going to be pulling out of Oruzgan province, which is the one that we have been looking after. And that's going to be happening in the next little while, so that we will be coordinating our pullout with the American withdrawal from Afghanistan, because actually we've been working very, very closely together. And in Sniper Elite, we talk about many of the actions that our lads have been working together in, and our fellows just couldn't do it without the American air cover, which has really allowed us to do our job on the ground.
Yeah, and I was reading in that book about some of this here. It did really require quite a bit of air cover, especially from helicopters, as I understood from the book. But this book, it covers a great extent of the real actual effects that was taking place in in Afghanistan with the Taliban, as Robert was a witness to it. Is that correct?
Yeah, Rob. Well, actually,
I say a witness, I mean a part of.
That's right. Very much so. Very much so. The story of the book really is that the Special Forces operator, which in Australia we call the SAS, the Special Air Services, the equivalent in America is Delta Force, or the Navy SEALs. Our boys work very closely with them at that level, at that Special Forces level. And one of these operators came to me to ask me if I would tell his story, because he had just come back from Afghanistan and he was retiring from the army. And so I agreed to do so. This was a guy who was very, very intelligent, but he had left school aged only about 13, 14. And he didn't really have the kind of capability to express himself on the page. And so I really had to decide how I was going to handle this, because it was such a fantastic story. And I decided the only way to do so would be to really get inside his mind and, in a sense, to become him, so that I could write it in the first person, so that it just seems as though he is the person who is telling his own story. And to do that, Royce, was a very engaging problem, because it meant that he had to come over from one side of the country, and we've got a big country here. He had to come from Perth to Canberra, where I live, and stay with me and my family for quite a time, about 4 or 5 weeks at a time. And then I would go over there and stay with him and his family and really do a tremendous amount of talking and listening and recording, so that I figured at the end of that process I was really on his wavelength, and so I could tell the story as though it was him who was speaking. And we began the story with his childhood in New Zealand, and then worked our way through his time in England when he became a Royal Marine, and then back to Australia where he joined the Army. And it's from the Army only that you can get into the Special Forces, and it's an almost impossible job to get there. But he was a very, very dedicated soldier, and so he was able to work his way up and become the top sniper in our Special Forces unit. And it was from there that we went off to a range of actions, culminating in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I noticed when I was reading the books that he was the kind of guy that me as an ex-Marine could relate to. You see the kind of guys in every boot camp you go into, a person would look at them and they would say that they were a lifer in the service. I mean, these are people that they might near eat, drink, and sleep their military duties. Everything in the military just seems to be like second nature to them, in other words.
That's right. And Rob actually said, Rob Macklin, this guy, he said, I was born to be a soldier. And it was almost, even as a little kid, he wasn't interested in books. He was only interested in playing with toy guns and rifles. And just as soon as he could hold a pop gun, he was out shooting. And he was just really built for it. And funnily enough, on his way there, he became a mechanic, a motor mechanic. And that turned out to be tremendously useful, because in that terrible terrain of Afghanistan, the vehicles were always breaking down, and they had to be fixed on the spot. And this was tremendously good training for him as he worked his way up through the military, and at the same time really concentrated on his sniping ability. And I was just absolutely amazed at the kind of skills that are required to be the top sniper. It's the most extraordinary art, and Rob became our very best. In fact, he's going over to the United States in July to Utah, where there's I think almost a world sniping competition, and he and a mate are going to be the only foreigners in that competition against the very best of America.
Wow. Well, I noticed that in the book he did have to replace the CV joints in their vehicles more than once. That was the main thing kept giving up. And he said in there, according to you, that he could replace CV joints in 45 minutes. And I'm like, I know a lot of mechanics here in the United States can't replace CV joints in 45 minutes.
Right. That was one thing. I could get into his brain, but I'm damned if I could get into his hands. There's no way that I could even replace the darn thing in 45 days. But some people have got this natural ability. They just seem to be able to. The machinery seems to talk to them. I'm afraid I speak a different language, and the machinery just doesn't like the lingo that I talk. But that was one of the very interesting elements of what our boys have got to do over there. But they couldn't do it on their own. It really is a partnership between the Australians and the Americans in the area that we live in and work in.
Yeah, I could tell that there was really a big partnership between the Americans and Australians, and actually even some of the UK boys.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And in fact, when they got into that tremendous ambush, which was a combined operation with Australia and the United States, Rob used his body to protect the American who was in his vehicle.
Yes, went out there and deliberately made himself a target.
That's right. But it was vital that he had the radio to call in the air cover. And the funny thing is that in a sense they saved each other's life, and Rob was very, very keen to try to find him again when he goes to America, and he's been having a real problem in trying to find the guy. And I'm hoping that when he gets over there to do the sniping competition and also to do a bit of promotion of the book, that he is able to find this guy because they've got a really strong bond.
Well, from reading the book, I would say he had developed a strong bond with a lot of his fellow soldiers over there. And, I mean, some of the things that they talked about in there early on in the book, during the training process, extreme cold temperatures and that ice and water and stuff. I mean, that was not even part of standard boot camp when I was in it. I thought to myself, maybe if I'd went on to infantry, I would have had to train in some of that myself.
Yeah, maybe so. They went to Norway, for that cold training, the snow and the ice training. It just sounded absolutely appalling to me. But boy, did it really toughen them up. These guys got to be extraordinarily fit and strong, and they had to be to put up with the sorts of things that a sniper needs to do in Afghanistan. I mean, one of the really interesting things to me was the quality that they needed to have above all else was patience. They would go out in a helicopter and be landed about 10, 20 k's away. That would be about 9 or 12 miles from the target where they had to go to overlook an area to set up their fire base, and they would walk that area up the mountains into the really cold hills and rocky hills of Afghanistan with the bitter winds and the terrible cold of night. And they need to set up their little operation at the top of these mountains, and then they'd have to wait hour after hour after hour before looking down on the roads as the Taliban came through to find their targets. So that kind of patience is really something that you don't think about when you think about sniping. You think it's really all about marksmanship, but actually it's a tremendous about patience and about the kind of stamina that you need to keep your concentration for all those hours.
Yeah, it does take a lot of that. And, part of what I was reading in that book, that you had to maintain this concentration on roughly 5 hours worth of sleep a day.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Obviously, the stamina was tremendously important. And you can't light fires, otherwise you'll be seen. You've got to have already organized your escape route, because once you start firing, people will identify your position. There's just so many elements that you've got to take care of when you're up there in those wretched hills. And I've got to say, I'll be very pleased when when we all come home out of that awful quagmire. Sure, we had to be there early in the piece, but it does seem a pretty tough assignment right now.
Well, we've been being promised for, since the Bush administration that they were bringing our boys home, and we're still waiting.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it looks like they'll be back really by 2014, and it can't be soon enough for me. But, there was for these fellas, these SAS guys, and your Delta guys and your SEALs, there's always another job to do. And these blokes have a very particular capability. I mean, Rob Macklin, for example, I mean, when you meet him, you think, well, this is a kind, polite, gentle sort of a guy. But by gosh, you'd rather have him as a friend than an enemy. Sometimes you just see him, as he gets around, he's always seems to be a couple of thoughts ahead of the game. He's always looking and being prepared for things. Even now that he's left the forces, he still retains that attitude of the scout, always on guard.
Yeah, and he did a good job of it during the course of that book, maintaining that. I mean, he was worried about little things that give you away. And actually, even in the very back of the book, he gave people 11 good rules to go by to keep from being spotted or seen, in other words.
Yeah.
The good rules that come for the sniper, the 11 rules he called them. I'm not going to give the candy store away reading them off, but I did read them earlier. Now, granted, a lot of them were common sense, but there was a lot of stuff in there that the average person just wouldn't have thought of. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. It's a real art, isn't it? In fact, he and I are now working on a documentary film for television on it's called Dark and Dangerous. It's on the art of the sniper over the years, because there have been some very extraordinary snipers, especially in the United States. Carlos Hathcock, he was one of the very greats. There's a guy from Finland who we're also doing, and there's an Australian Aboriginal guy named Billy Singh in the First World War at Gallipoli, who was a pretty amazing fella. He was he had this ability to hit a target, but you could barely see. And I know these fellas do seem to be a breed on their own. And I find the whole sniping side of things absolutely fascinating, because before I started the book, I had this concept, that a sniper was a guy, like one of those Japanese guys in the John Wayne movies that were up in a coconut palm, and they were very quickly shot out. But it's a total art that's been developed over the years. And Rob Macklin. He's the number one in Australia, and I'm hoping that when he gets over to Idaho, he gets to be number one in the world.
Well, that would be nice. But yeah, and also one of the things I did notice I could relate to with him in that book is, much like the Marines here in America, the Royal Marines over there in Australia, when they play hard, which usually entailed going to the neighborhood bar, getting drunk, and then doing some pretty gross things.
That's true. I mean, I think the soldiers have been doing that since the year dot.
Well, it was easy. It was easy when I was in. They just wanted to dump an ashtray into the beer and dare everybody to drink it. But the stuff that they were putting in this here drink that Rob was talking about, that's another story entirely.
Yeah. I mean, they've been, you know what I think? This is the way that they decided that they could stay sane, you know? They go through all these terrible experiences, and they come back and get into the beer, and it would give them a sense of relief, and they could just get it all out of their system. Because if you don't have some kind of release, then you get this, the post-traumatic stress disorder, the PTSD, which I'm sure a lot of your boys are coming home with, and I know that a lot of ours are also, because another SAS operator has come to me and asked me to do his book, and he's been suffering from it for the last 4 or 5 years. So there's got to be a release from these things, and I think that the next story that we're going to get out of Iraq and Afghanistan, if it hasn't already happened, is going to be, you know, what used to be called war traumas. Now there's PSDT, and I just think that it's going to be a problem that we're going to have to face. I think many Americans had to face it after Vietnam, but it's been a very special series of wars in the Middle East, and I think we're going to get a whole range of this happening now.
Now, has Rob Myler had any of this post-traumatic stress disorder since he's been home?
Not a bit. No, he's amazing in that way. You know, he was wounded very badly in the back, and with a grenade went off behind him, and those wounds have caused him some troubles. But he does seem to have this really calm way of handling things. In fact, he's given up the beer entirely, and he spends a lot of time just remaining very fit and doing some security work. He actually did some security work recently for an American billionaire who came out to Papua New Guinea and needed someone to look after him up there. Yeah, it's going to be a problem, and I think our governments are going to have to face it square on this time.
Right. Well, I was going to mention to you earlier that after reading this book, I personally think that this book would make a great not documentary, but actually an action film.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you. It would be nice. It would be very nice to hear, the sound of money trickling in for the film rights. But let's hope. We do have a couple of ideas of spin-offs, but not of actually filming the book itself yet, but let's hope. With your great stretch of people listening in, Royce, maybe we'll get an offer from this.
Well, I certainly hope so. I certainly should. I know that I'm a member over at UnitedParanormalInternational.net, and they've got a group devoted to nothing but the military, and I posted it over there. I haven't heard a lot back from it over there yet, but I'm pretty sure I will. You know, people, they check their message over there kind of sporadically.
Right.
But, I think a lot of people over there be interested just because they were, well, like me, they're ex-service people, and I know some other people that they were in the Air Force or the Navy or that, might have an interest in something like this, in other words. Because most people that's been in the service can relate.
Yes. As a matter of fact, it's the military side of things that is really doing very well in publishing in Australia, at least. Military and also on the food side, the cookery side. So, as a matter of fact, my son and I have just started a book called Marching on Our Stomachs, which is about the military and food over the centuries. Because as Napoleon said, an army marches on its stomach, and you know, it's been an important element in the whole of our military history to combine those two. I mean, we're either fighting for food or using food to help our fighters, and there's been tremendous amount of research done, particularly in the United States and in Australia, on the kind of food that's necessary to keep these guys properly nourished when they're in combat. And that's one of the elements, I'm told, that can help to avoid the PTSD. The PTSD. That's you know, there's a lot of scientific work being done that can really help to ameliorate those problems.
Okay. Well, listen, we've been on here for almost about 30 minutes. You mentioned earlier that was pretty close to your limit. You had something going on this evening. So I wanted to get a chance to ask you if there's anything else you wanted to throw in there that we haven't got around to.
Well, not at the moment, except I've got another, as I said, another SAS book is going to come out, and this is from one of the guys who is or did suffer from PTSD, and I think his story is just going to blow your mind. So when that's ready to roll, my friend, I'll give you a ring, and maybe we can get together then.
Oh, that sounds just great. You do have my contact info, right? You got my email, I know.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll talk to you then, Royce. I look forward to that very much.
I look forward to it, too. I mean, like I said, I've been in the service myself. I can relate. What drives my kids crazy about it is I ended up raising my kids in a very extremely structured environment because everything in the service is so structured and disciplined, and it just wears off on you. I'm pretty sure Robert Macklin probably had the same problem being really structured with his family.
Well, that's true, except that he's got two lovely little girls. And, you know, pretty hard to structure a situation around two daughters when they, you know, they just love daddy so much. They get away with almost anything with Rob.
My kids never could do that with me, but my kids were boys.
That's right. That's the big difference.
All righty. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to let you go ahead and run for the night and take care of whatever you need to take care of. And I'll plan to have you back at a future date. You know, if you want to, just stay in touch whenever you feel like it and stop by and say hi.
That's wonderful, Royce. I look forward to that a lot. Good on you, mate. Goodbye for now.
Okay, no. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, everybody, real quick, like before I cut the show completely off, in case I did it like I did. No, it's still showing to be on. Last week I accidentally cut it off when I disconnected the guest, or the last show. I wanted to remind everybody that this Saturday I'm going to be interviewing Seth Farber about his book, The Spiritual Gift of Madness. I haven't had a chance to see his book yet, but the subject sounds kind of unique to me, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. Also, don't forget that we are coming up, I think it's July 2nd, I have to look it up, on World UFO Day. The link's in the upper right-hand corner. You want to stop by and check or give them a holler. And don't forget to stop by and visit my friends at their social networks. Well, let me take a look at this. Alien and UFO Community, Supernatural UFO, United Paranormal International. They're great forums and networks, wonderful people, experienced people, great place to make friends and learn. Also, if you enjoy radio shows, here's some others you may enjoy just like you do mine. UKPN Radio with Gary Brown, Truth Stories Around the Campfire with Jim Harold, The Gralian Report with Micah Hanks, Ohio Exopolitics Radio with Mark Hamill. These are all hosts that I know personally, and they've either been to my show or I've been on theirs, or, you know, we've met at Blog Talk or whatever. So, you know, good people. I think you'll enjoy it. I'm going to go ahead and call it quits for the night. I'm sorry we only had a 30-minute show, but My guest tonight told me before the show started that he thought an hour would be a bit much for him tonight. The next show, Saturday, should be at least an hour, if not 2. I really haven't asked the guest yet. In the meantime, y'all have a good night. Thanks for coming. I could not have a show without my listeners any more than I could have one without my guests. So I really do appreciate you guys being here and being a part of my show. Good night, and y'all enjoy yourself.